broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of Gun Guy Radio is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Hello and welcome to Gun Guy Radio. This is the podcast that shines a positive light on the firearms lifestyle. I'm your host, Ryan Machad, and this is your weekly dose of positive firearms talk without the politics. This week, I'm joined by Paul Carlson to discuss his new Plan B 2.0. As always, please consider supporting the Firearms Radio Network by shopping Amazon using our Amazon affiliate link at firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. A portion of your purchase will go towards helping the FRN create awesome pro-gun content like this show. Also, please check out the Patriot Patch Company and their current patches available for pre-order. Check them out at patriotpatch.co. So, Paul, how you doing?
I am doing great, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me. How are you?
Not too bad. Great to have you back on the show. It's been a while.
It has. Just about a little bit over a year, 16, 15 months, something like that, right?
I was going to say, last time I had you on, we were talking about the original Plan B at From SHOT Show.
Yeah, we were. What a distance we've come since then.
Do you shop on Amazon? How about your spouse? Does your mom? Does your company? Why not use the Firearms Radio Network's Amazon affiliate link next time you shop Amazon? Bookmark firearmsradio.tv/Amazon or click through the Amazon link in the right-hand corner of firearmsradio.tv. Get it? Got it? Amazon it.
So, Paul, last year, about this time, I spoke with you, and the Plan B was still kind of in its infancy. You had the, what was it, aluminum prototype, I believe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then we met up at NRA as well, and I actually got to see it hands-on, which was awesome. I remember being at Nashville Armory at the Glock event with TJU and Claude Werner talking about it. And so, just how's that journey been?
Man, it has been an exciting ride. One that I never anticipated as a firearms instructor. Excuse me. It's a journey that I never anticipated as a firearms instructor. I always saw myself as somebody out there, helping students to learn and to teach, and I never thought that I was going to be in the development side of things and trying to actually create physical products to solve problems. And so I found that I've been in a lot of ways really unprepared for this journey, and that's really exciting. It's kind of neat to be heading into new water, diving in without really knowing what lies underneath the surface, and really learn along the way. So when you were at NRA with me at that Glock event, I hadn't even seen the first production prototypes. I'd not even put my hands on those yet. I was able to show you the one that was whittled out of a block of aluminum and made to work and got the concept across to the folks that were doing the design work. And then I guess it must have been either the second or third day of NRA last year when I got an overnight package, and there were the first production pieces. And I remember sitting at a table and talking with you and Masada Ayub and a whole bunch of other folks, Richard Johnson and Grant Cunningham, about the Plan B and where it was going to go. And it's been an exciting ride since then, for sure.
Yeah, that was a table. A lot of people were walking by and looking and saying, "Oh man, what's going on over there?" Yeah. All these people sitting around at a table.
Yeah. Feet up and shoes off at that point in time, I think it was.
Now, for those people who are unfamiliar with the Plan B and its origins, why don't you start out with a short synopsis of how it actually came to be?
Yeah, the genesis of the product itself came from my time out on the range with students. And one of the things that I feel is my duty as a teacher is to help students to solve their problems. And one of the problems we started to see with the Smith & Wesson Shield in particular, very popular gun at the time, let's call it 24 months ago, almost 3 years ago now, was the fact that the sleeve on the 8-round magazine of the Smith & Wesson Shield was causing some problems. And when we looked at those problems, the solution in my mind was really simple. Just take the darn thing off. Just slide that sleeve off and be done with it. If you do that, it gives you a surface area on the base pad that lets you deal with a malfunction should you need it, a good sharp edge to grab onto. It stops the sleeve from, allowing the magazine to be trapped inside the gun by your hand. And it remediates the problem of that sleeve sliding up and down and possibly interfering with the reload. And so just getting rid of that sleeve made so much sense. Well, then I found myself out on a range in Kansas, working with Daniel Shaw. I was teaching a critical defensive handgun class out there. And we had a student, Mark Goldstein, in class. And Mark was a machine. He was just a hard charger and a really solid shooter. Well, after I told him to get rid of that darn sleeve, within probably an hour and a half, he'd shut his gun down completely. What we didn't anticipate, and I should have anticipated, I'm a little bit disappointed in myself still to this day that I didn't think about this, because I should have known the magazine was over-inserting into the handgun and impacting the ejector. And Mark bent his ejector so it was literally pointing straight up in the air. We'd now taken a problem with the gun and created an even bigger problem. And so I set out right then and there thinking to myself, man, I really have to solve this. I really need to figure this out because what we're doing isn't working. And we went from there.
You would think that Smith & Wesson probably should have known about that problem too. I mean, not trying to blame anybody in particular for the issue, but you would think that would have been something they thought about. The sleeve is removable. Maybe we should make it so it can't be over-inserted. Well,
magazine design is one of those things where magazines are primarily there to deliver ammunition reliably.
Right.
And the Smith & Wesson Shield magazine is an excellent magazine. It simply is not quite as robust when it comes to preventing over-insertion like a Glock mag is. Well, a Smith & Wesson M&P, although it's got a lot of similarities, it's not a Glock, and that's okay. And Smith & Wesson did deal with it because they put a spacer on their magazine. What they didn't think about or didn't consider or didn't value was the other problems that were going to be caused there. And this is not a Smith & Wesson Shield problem. We can look at all different kinds of guns, especially single-stack metal magazine guns, and see over-insertion problems. And the reason that I say that I'm disappointed that I didn't perceive this as a potential problem is the fact that I cut my teeth on 1911s with 10-round magazines. And anyone that runs a 1911 with 10-round magazines knows that over-insertion is a real possibility, and the result of that is typically, or could be, I should say, a broken or bent ejector. And so, here we are in common or in relatively known territory. I just didn't anticipate being there, and it led us to a opportunity to create a solution for students, for folks out there that are carrying the Smith & Wesson Shield as a CCW handgun.
I was going to say, because I wasn't familiar with that. I didn't realize that it was actually an issue on other firearms as well.
Yeah, this is common, and since coming up with the concept of the Plan B, folks have brought to my attention other firearms. In fact, those of you out there that are carrying a Smith & Wesson M&P 9C and you're carrying a reload with a full-size M&P magazine, over-insertion is a problem. And the way that this was dealt with in the 1911 world was simply modifying the slide stop so that the gun didn't lock back on an empty magazine. And that way you were never inserting a fresh 10-round magazine into a gun that was locked back. Your ejector is protected. It's not going to bend. Well, from a concealed carry standpoint, that doesn't work in my mind.
Right.
The gun is designed to lock back for a reason. So, we're not going to start to modify either magazine followers or slide stop levers so that the slide doesn't lock back. That doesn't make sense. So we have the Plan B.
Now, how was the Plan B received by the industry? Because I know you were kind of walking around NRA with your prototype, and I'm sure that you've done other things since then, obviously.
Yeah, it's been really amazing, and I at first was really kind of taken aback. Again, this is somebody diving into uncharted territory, at least for me. Of course, other people have gone before me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I spent a lot of time thinking about or talking to or learning from their experiences, which would have been really intelligent to do. But hey, maybe next time around I'll know more about this, right? When I first got to SHOT Show, I expected to leave SHOT Show of 2015 without the Plan B. I expected that was going to be a product that someone from the industry, especially a big company like Smith & Wesson, would look at and say, great idea, we want that, here's a check, let's get the lawyers together, we'll write some papers and go. Instead, I was immediately met with paperwork saying, you are not to discuss this with anyone with Smith & Wesson, don't show it to us, don't talk about it, don't do anything, we don't even want to know. And our lawyers will contact you in the order of people that contact them. And so I was just queued up in a queue of inventors that were pitching Smith & Wesson for products. And it was more than a month before I'd even heard anything from Smith & Wesson. And I'm not a patient fellow. I have students out there that have needs. There are people out there with Smith & Wesson shields that want to have that gun improved and have it improved now. So we pressed on from there. What was really telling was the number of people that over the next couple of weeks signed up for email lists and watched videos and then ponied up dollars for a product that hadn't even been produced yet. And that was an amazing reception, not necessarily from the industry itself, but from the end users. We launched and contracted for 200 Plan Bs to be made, and those were sold out in a matter of a few weeks. And so that was a very exciting time. And then we got into the really frustrating time where I spent many days rubbing my face against a cheese grater, it felt like, trying to actually get the Plan B produced. I was promised a March shipping date, and July 4th, I finally received Plan Bs. It was actually the few days before July 4th. I finally got them in my hand to be able to ship out to my customers. And it was thrilling to get those shipped, and I was amazed at how patient people were, and I was very thankful for how patient people were. But that was a tough process. And so we've taken some steps to make sure that does not happen again.
Well, it just goes to show you, the people who why can't they just do this with this gun, or why can't they just make this? Right. The Plan B, as innovative as it really is just two solid pieces of material. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, looking at how long it took for that to happen, imagine what it takes for something with, complex mechanical engineering and stuff like a gun.
Absolutely. I look at what it is, and I was texting back and forth with Rob Pincus last week, and I was busting his chops, and he was busting my chops as usual. And we were talking about magazines, and I said something about, you've got a gun with a magazine that's 100 years old, and he's, back and forth with, well, at least it didn't take me 24 months to develop the magazine base pad. And he's right. I mean, and by the time I get out a Plan B 3.0, he'll have produced an entire new gun. And, awesome. It's an amazing process. And I'm humbled by the process, and I've learned a tremendous amount, and it's really exciting. And what's been most telling and most exciting about it is what's happened since those first Plan Bs shipped. We have 100% absolute positive feedback. People just love the product. They think it's a serious improvement. And what's been cool is, as I've done a little bit of the show circuit, the industry folks that have pulled me aside and said, hey, Paul, come here and talk to me about this. All of a sudden, developing this product and getting it out there and getting it onto the market has in some ways put me on the map with a whole new group of people. When a gun manufacturer grabs me by the arm and says, hey, I want to show you this magazine for this new gun we designed. And I want you to know that if you make this tiny modification, well, then your Plan B is going to work with this gun too. That's really cool to have happen. To have yesterday I had a major molding company, an industry company that does a lot of molding, contact me, and someone says, hey, I want to get my hands on these. How can I get these? And the conversation then turns into, how can this company help me bring it to the market as a polymer piece as well? And it's just an amazing, exciting journey. And it's a testament to the cool end users in the firearms industry, all of you folks that we're talking to right now, thank you, and to the amazing people that are in the industry as well.
It's the grassroots like we see in all parts of life.
Absolutely. But it seems the grassroots go deeper here in the gun industry. And I don't know why that is, but it's true.
Now, I'm sure that you've been using the Plan B in your classes, or at least given some out to a few folks that you trust to try and give feedback and anything like that. What have been the comments and experiences from them? I know you said they were all positive, but have they, been specific in how it was used or how it performed?
What's really cool is the people that are brand new to guns, that I put a Smith & Wesson shield in their hand as a rental gun in class, and send them out onto the range. And I shouldn't say I send them out, I take them out onto the range and run them through their paces and give them good, solid, realistic training. And they notice nothing. The gun just operates the way that it's supposed to operate, the way that I'm teaching them to operate it. Then they head out and they make the purchase and start to run into problems and then say, hey, wait a minute, why is this happening? Why won't the mag drop free? Why is the sleeve sliding around? I don't remember this happening on the rental gun. This is hard to pull out. Why is this difficult? And then I say, well, remember, I told you there was a special, I forgot all about that. So the biggest feedback has been from those students that don't have the experience to know what it is that's going on, that then find out what the shortcomings are when they don't have a plan B, if that makes sense.
Right.
The feedback from the folks that are out there, I had cool feedback. Being on the Gun Nation podcast with Doc and Average Joe and the other folks that are there on that podcast, we have a great audience. And I started to get emails about the Plan B from, NASA.gov email addresses, et cetera. And when I start to get email addresses like that, I start to get a little bit worried. Like, oh man, these are smart folks we're talking to. And then I start to find out that some of these people that are emailing me are in the development of parts for the space program, right? And I'm thinking, oh man. And then the feedback that comes back from them is stellar. Like the fit and finish is great, is perfect. No machining marks. It installs easily. Those kinds of pieces of feedback from really high-end customers, high-end users, if that makes sense, that's really humbling to know that we had that much success right off the bat.
And that's the thing. It adds a lot. I know I haven't held the polymer version that you have, but I have held, like I said, the aluminum prototype, and I know that in terms of, like, some guns the mags do not want to drop free.
Right.
And not only does the Plan B prevent you from, like, keeping it in with your hand, like, I'll have that happen with my car, my CM9. Mm-hmm. It will jam the mag up. My Steyr, on the other hand, no problem. Thing comes out every time. But having that little extra weight on there, too, because the base plate is bigger, and I think is the polymer version heavier than the sleeve and design?
Well, we don't have a polymer version yet.
Okay.
So right now what we've got an aluminum version 1, which is what it is that went out in that run of 200. And we should have, by the middle of April, a run of 75 prototypes that'll be going out to folks like you. If you're interested, you let me know, and we'll fire off a Plan B over to you, and you get that on a magazine and run it through its paces. So right now, we are in the aluminum-only mode. The goal is to definitely head to polymer, definitely heading that direction. The part, although it's very simple, it takes a lot of machine time to make out of aluminum. And anyone that's in the machining industry, as I've learned, knows it all comes down to minutes. How many minutes does it take to cut the parts, to swap them over, to reset the machines, et cetera? And this is a set of parts that takes 20 plus minutes to machine. So it's a time suck, and that makes it more expensive than I want it to be. And polymer is the answer to that. Now, why not just go with polymer? Well, number one, you only get one crack at it. And number two, the investment up front is significant. So we'd be looking at a $15,000 cost of a mold.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working to raise from a capital standpoint, is money to take this to the polymer ASAP. We'll get some more feedback on V2. We'll make another set of minor adjustments, and then we'll be going to polymer. So my hope is by this time next year, we will have polymer Plan Bs in people's hands. Now, the weight, we kind of started down this road because we talked about weight. So we've got an aluminum piece, and certainly the aluminum is a little bit heavier than the polymer. And I actually don't have real numbers on that. It's important to some IDPA folks, and actually when we jump off the air today, I'll throw them on the balance and find out what the actual mass of each is. But it's just enough to make the difference is what it comes down to.
Now, before we head into the 2.0 questions here, one question I've had from a few people when I've told them about the Plan B is that they wondered if there would be any reliability issues with a new base plate. Now, the replacement base plate industry, it's not a new one. I don't really see how there could be. And what would you say to them if they voice those concerns to you?
I would say good for you, number one. Anytime that we add parts to our gun, they can act in ways that we might not anticipate, and reliability is paramount. We're designing a product to try and improve the reliability of the magazine, and it's one of the reasons why I didn't run 1,000 Plan Bs the first time around. I ran 200 because I looked at that and said, okay, that's a number that if everything goes horribly wrong, I can refund people's money if this product doesn't work.
Right.
And we got those into people's hands and did some rigorous testing before we even got them out to people. I got them in the mail and went straight to the range to do a bunch of testing. I had several different guns, several different magazines. We swapped things back and forth and didn't find any reliability issues at all. Because of the nature of the base plate itself, it really just provides a shelf for the spring to sit on inside the magazine. And so I would not anticipate there being any malfunction issues. Again, that being said, everybody, when you make a change like this in your defensive handgun, you need to do some testing. Grab 4 boxes of 50 rounds, head to the range. You should experience 0 malfunctions. And if you do experience them, you've got to sort out what it is and make sure that you don't have a problem with your gun.
And especially a magazine. Magazine's the heart of the semi-auto pistol.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, to those folks that wonder, is there a reliability issue? Good for you for wondering that. That's something you've got to ask.
It's like when people say, I don't carry a spare magazine because I'm never going to need that many bullets. I'm like, it's not. Right. It's not that you need that many bullets. I said, if that mag goes down, you're screwed.
I recently headed through Craig Douglas's course, ECQC, Extreme Close Quarters Concepts, and the class has several opportunities to use a defensive firearm, and this is obviously a simulations model, in actual physical confrontations with individuals. And we're talking about in interpersonal distances. We're talking about physical contact, standing up on the ground, etc. And what was apparent to me right off the bat is the number of malfunctions that are caused at those distances because of the way that you or the other individual could be interacting with your firearm. And, the need to reload is not because you run out of bullets. That's not the biggest likelihood. The biggest likelihood of needing to reload is because you had to deal with some kind of a malfunction. And we can't have the expectation that we're going to be able to maintain control of a magazine after we take it out of the gun. We can do that on the range, but if you're also striking someone as you're trying to get your gun fixed, maybe that magazine isn't going to stay in the hand all that well.
Right. Or anything. I mean, bent feed lips or something you don't realize, a split magazine, anything like that.
Mm-hmm. No doubt about it.
So the Plan B 2.0, I saw a video on your Facebook page, and we'll plug that at the end there. What is the Plan B 2.0?
What we've done is we've made a couple of minor changes in the design. We've increased the elegance factor, if you will, rounded some edges that should have been rounded in version 1. We toned down the edges on the sides and at the front that helped to deal with malfunctions. And we've changed manufacturers. One of the things that you heard me say before is that I had a promise of a March delivery date, and I received my Plan Bs to ship out to customers in July. That's just not acceptable to me. That's someone else not placing this as a priority. So we made a change with manufacturers. We're actually going to be manufactured by some folks here locally in Cleveland, which helps out a lot because I'm able to actually visit and say hello and check in on how things are going. I won't have to wait for shipping. I'm going to drive over and pick them up. Those are all great things. And the manufacturer is going to be Great Lakes Tactical. And these folks are experienced firearms industry machinists. These are folks that have been making NFA parts for lots of companies for lots of years. So if that makes sense to you folks, let's say that this company has helped the firearms industry stay hush-hush for a long time. And so the Plan B is something really simple for them to do in comparison to some of the other projects they're involved with. And I'm excited to be working with Great Lakes Tactical up in Willoughby, Ohio. So that's going to be one of the biggest parts of the 2.0 is the change in manufacturers. And I really felt like it was fair to give a new designation with the minor changes. Maybe this was a version 1.1, but because we're changing manufacturers, version 2.0 seemed to make sense to me. The Plan B is still going to do the same things that the original Plan B did. It's going to help to make sure the sleeve does not slide up and down on the magazine body. It's going to make sure that your hand is much less likely to trap that magazine inside the gun should you need to reload from that 8-round magazine, which is probably primarily a training issue. You go to the range and you want to train properly. Well, we don't want to have that magazine trapped. And then third, it's going to give us those edges that are going to help to deal with malfunctions should we face those, and even one-handed malfunctions.
Now, is it going to be, is this polymer?
Well, the version 2.0 is still in aluminum. Okay. We're still in aluminum. The version 2.0, I'm hoping to release that in polymer as well. And, the time frame on that really depends on how well received the Plan B is. Right. Next Wednesday, the 24th of February, if you folks are listening, when this is published, we're going to be launching a pre-sale. And what will happen is we'll start to sell prototypes, which will be for early delivery, and I'm going to ask for really solid feedback from folks. I'll be getting some of these prototypes out to industry personalities such as yourself, Ryan, and other folks that are going to run it through its paces and give some feedback and help to spread the word. We'll be selling, in addition to that, standard Plan Bs, and we're hoping for a June delivery this year of when those launch out. And we're going to be bundling these Plan Bs with all kinds of other options for people. We're going to run some training classes that are going to take place in September. Those training classes will be Smith & Wesson M&P Shield with the Plan B training classes. We're going to have actually 4 days of courses that people can attend to learn how to use their Plan B more efficiently along with that concealed carry handgun. And the whole idea behind this campaign is this is almost kind of like a Kickstarter campaign, except it's going to be run straight from our website. And that'll raise the funds for us to be able to drive straight into polymer. We'll be able to finish the legal aspect of the patents. We'll be able to develop the molds, and we'll be able to bring the polymer to the market so that we can get this into the hands of every Smith & Wesson Shield owner. And that's really the goal, is anyone that uses this gun for defensive use, I want them to have this on their gun.
Now, do you foresee any future improvements to the Plan B? I know you said you would kind of alter the design a little bit for
Sure.
the 2.0.
Well, the biggest thing that I want to continue to do with the Plan B is to reduce the profile in the rear of the magazine. And so we're always going to be looking for better ways to reduce that profile. The more we can reduce it, the less likely your hand is to trap that magazine inside the gun. So that's going to be number one. And the second area that I really want to improve things as we drive into polymer is I want to get the texturing just right. When we move to polymer, it'll be much easier for us to texture the Plan B in the mold. So we create that texture one time, and then every time it's injected, well, there's that texture. And getting it just right is going to be one of the biggest challenges that we've got, and one of the most exciting aspects of the improvement. So, what I encourage people to do is dive into this. If you've got a Smith & Wesson Shield and you think that this might be a good product, pick up one, pick up two. Check them out, give us feedback, and help us understand how we can make those improvements, what those improvements should be. Because this is a customer-driven from inception. I typically don't carry a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield, but this is something I've seen with so many of my students. This is customer-driven. It comes from people just like you, and your feedback, that's what's going to take this to the next level. So do I foresee improvements? Yes. What are those improvements? Beyond the texture and beyond the drive to polymer and reducing the profile? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out.
Well, and you're not some like big nameless, faceless company either. You're a concealed carrier yourself. You understand what goes on. Like, speaking in terms like the texturing, for instance, you're that you're gonna want to get something that's get a tactile feel that you can actually manipulate and get out of the gun, but isn't going to hang up on your cover garment. Maybe if you're carrying IWB or something.
Right. Absolutely. We've got to think about what the function of the Plan B is and what's its purpose. And we're going to stay focused on that. That's where we're going to be heading, and that's what we're going to be doing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Now, we talked about the fact that this is the problem that the Plan B helps solve is also present on some other handgun platforms. Mm-hmm. Do you have any plans potentially to expand those to other platforms, or is this mainly going to be a Shield-based product?
Right now, we're going to focus on the Shield, and there's a couple of reasons why. It's going to help us to get the most traction because there's more than 1 million Smith & Wesson Shields out there. And so it's going to give us the education that we need to design the best product that we can design. And especially since this is a end-user focused design, that's going to be helpful. The next spot to go is going to be straight to that 9C. And again, much smaller footprint in that market, but I see that as a need as well. That is a concept that I use in my carry gun. I carry a short grip, long slide gun with a full-size magazine reload. Well, that's just common sense. And there's been a new product that's been released where you can put a full-size top end on a Smith & Wesson M&P 9C, which gives you that same Glock, quote, 18, unquote, profile that I carry in a Smith & Wesson. So it makes sense to head there. And we've already got a design in process for the XDS series pistols. So we'll be looking primarily at the single stack 9mm market, and then expand on from there as the product is needed.
Well, and it's weird, too, because I've noticed, it used to be that if people, we'll say police officers, carried a Glock as their duty pistol, generally they either carried, a backup revolver on their ankle or something, or a Glock 26 with the magazine interchangeability. And, thinking about it, the Shield has really, I think, overtaken the Glock 26's kind of market share. Because I'll see cops that I know carrying Glock pistols as their duty gun, but they're carrying a shield as their backup gun.
Right. And there are a lot of folks that are actually able to carry the shield in a pocket. Now, it's not comfortable for me to carry in a pocket, not with the pants that I wear. But that's an advantage it has over the Glock 26, right, is that thickness of the Glock 26 at over an inch in thickness. And here the shield is under an inch in overall thickness. It really makes it much easier to conceal in a pocket in that kind of a situation. The other thing that we have to look at is the fact that Smith & Wesson continues to make inroads in the law enforcement market when it comes to firearm contracts. They are overtaking Glock contracts on a regular basis. And so law enforcement officers are much more exposed to the Smith & Wesson handguns these days, the modern striker-fired guns. And so it's a much easier jump for them to make to that Smith & Wesson shield. Even if their agency is still with the Glock, they're much more aware of what's out there with the Smith & Wesson now.
Right. Now, we did talk about the aluminum models. Will that continue to be something that could be ordered like on an as-ordered basis for people that would prefer that once the polymer version does come out?
Yeah, my intention is to have that premium model available. And as we have the ability to do so, we'll be able to add some texturing to that and do some things. Engraving is always a possibility, and that's one of the nice things about the aluminum is, we can make minor changes to that relatively easy. Of course, that comes at an expense. And not every customer is going to be interested in that, but some will be. And so I don't have any intention of taking that off of the plate of offering. At the same time, I think that many folks are interested in a polymer version simply because the cost will be a fraction of that of the aluminum. The cost for polymer is up front, whereas the cost for aluminum is on a per-part basis. And so once we get that first batch of polymers out there, I'm sure that that's going to lead to a whole nother group of customers that are interested in the product.
And for those people who want to train with you, Paul, where can they find more about that? And so what's going on with that? I know you usually have a pretty busy summer with training classes.
Yeah, we do. We're working on launching a new website as we speak, and that will have the updated training calendar on it. The best place to find out about our training is safetysolutionsacademy.com. If you head there, you can choose the courses section and head right there. For folks that are interested in the concealed carry of handguns, our critical defensive handgun class is really the class that people should take a look at. It gives you the concepts behind how it is that we can use a firearm efficiently to defend ourselves or loved ones, other innocent people, should we face that potentially lethal violent encounter. So that's the critical defensive handgun. That's the class to be looking at. And the course that we'll be running 4 days of Smith & Wesson Shield training will be a critical defensive handgun for the Smith & Wesson Shield, then combined with an advanced critical defensive handgun where we go really in depth with manipulations and dealing with one-handed malfunctions, etc. And we'll really see how that Smith & Wesson the Safety Solutions Academy Plan B for the Smith & Wesson Shield shines in that situation. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Hosting Grant for TCR this year, perhaps?
I haven't had a chance to talk with Grant about that yet. It's a really busy summer, and so we'll have to see how that goes. I'm not sure what his plans are. He's been very busy in the industry as well, and so I'm not sure what his training schedule looks like right now.
Well, anybody who's considering going out and training with Safety Solutions Academy, I highly recommend it. I've said before, if I had to send my wife somewhere to get training, her and Grant would be two of the people I would consider, only because I know that she is a beginner and they're not going to talk down to her, they're not going to disrespect her, they're going to treat her like a new student and teach her the best way they can. So anybody who wants to train with Paul, definitely look into that. There'll be links in the show notes, and you even sell ammo on your store, I believe. So you don't have to worry about taking that with you.
Yeah, it's one of the things is I spent a lot of time in the past traveling around the country and teaching, and I'm very lucky to have an amazing range that I'm permitted to use here in the Cleveland area, and it's really led to the idea of having a destination where folks can come and train. And so we've started to do things like that, make sure that we've got ammo on hand for students to order ahead of time and have ready and waiting for them so they don't have to worry about shipping. They don't have to worry about trying to get 1,000 rounds of ammo to a class that they're flying to. We've got firearms that are available for rent. So, if you own a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield Plan B and you want to attend one of these classes, we'll set you up with a gun. You don't have to bring your own gun. We can set you up with one of our pistols to use. It'll be the same concept, same idea, and then you don't have to worry about the travel with the firearm, which for some people can be problematic.
We don't need no stinking badges. Ha ha ha. Oh, you meant patches. Yeah, I'd love me some high quality patches. Where? Patriot Patch Company, you say? Vámonos to patriotpatch.co. Whoa. You say they have t-shirts too? Vámonos to patriotpatch.co.
Excellent. And where can people keep updated on the Plan B project and follow the introduction of 2.0?
Best place is just head to ssa.training/Plan B. Again, that's ssa.training/Plan B.
Excellent, Paul. I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully we'll have some more updates on the Facebook page and on that link there as well.
I tell you what, I can't thank you enough for having me on Gun Guy Radio, Ryan. It was a pleasure to kind of break the news of the Plan B with you last year, and it's exciting to be back to talk about it again. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time and the time of all your listeners.
Gun Guy Radio says thank you and proudly displays artwork and graphics designed by Ryan Cross of Hunter of Design. hunterofdesign.com.
So that about wraps up this episode of Gun Guy Radio. Remember to subscribe to us on iTunes so that you never miss a show. And please leave us a review there as well, gunguyradio.com/iTunes. Please consider joining the NRA and the Second Amendment Foundation. There are links there in the show notes. And don't forget to check out the other shows on the Firearms Radio Network. Also, be sure to check out the Patriot Patch Company, started by FRN's own Jake Challand and Ryan Cross. Patriot Patch Company offers high-quality 3D PVC vinyl patches with Velcro backing that is sure to satisfy any taste. Be sure to check them out at www.patriotpatch.co. This is Ryan Machad, and I'll see you next week.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv. Hey, since you're already listening to a show on the Firearms Radio Network, then you should check out the God and Guns podcast. Troy and Doug talk about guns from a Christian perspective and, of course, God. GodandGunsPodcast.com/iTunes. Subscribe now.